Well, good morning, everybody. I hope you're having a fantastic day. I know I'm a little bit late, but I want to do a summer solstice garden tour. Well, post-summer solstice. We got a little bit of sidetracked with our bees yesterday, so we were out late getting them done, and then I actually went out and did my first surf since I broke my toe. So we did that, and it was a beautiful night. But yeah, we're gonna do a little bit of a garden tour, and I also want to talk about the effects of heat on germination, and I want to show you something that we have discovered. This is now, we came through the other day and we pulled up all the rest of the carrots. We just got a bunch of baby carrots out of it. Got tired of waiting and put our last of our husk tomatoes in for the year. So this bed will be mostly husk tomatoes. And what happened was the carrots actually came and they shaded out our lima beans here, and then this actually shaded out the other side of them. So I think what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna come back and just plant like a little patch right here of like 4 or 5 of them just to get them growing. And this we thought was all cucumbers, but that is not the case. We have one cucumber plant here, and we also have some gourds here. I got wind of this on, I believe it was Facebook. A company posted that a major seed supplier had gotten some seeds mixed up in the packets. And they weren't very specific in what they were talking about, but I'm thinking this is what happened here, because I know when I planted them in the seed cells and rows and labeled them and everything. And to have them so different, I think that's exactly what may have happened. So that's a really sad development in my mind, that seed companies cannot put the seeds that are supposed to be in the packet. And I mean, there's a couple reasons why. Now, I mean, the big reason, and really the only reason to really focus on, is most seed companies, they all get their seeds from the same suppliers, or there's only a handful of suppliers for certain vegetables across the entire world. So if one seed supplier messed up like that, then guess who else messed up? Everybody who bought the seeds from there. So I don't know how much of an issue this is, but it's obviously enough for there to be a post out and saying like, hey, this is the situation, blah, 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 you know, the seeds got mixed up or what have you. But it's really sad, because I'm looking at what I thought was a trellis of cucumbers, and I got 1 cucumber and 2 gourds. I mean, that's not very helpful, right? And I remember planting them, and I don't think the seeds looked any different. So I'm gonna double check, but I don't know. I mean, whatever, I guess I'll just have a bunch of gourds this year. Our green beans are moving right along. I'm just coming out here every couple of days, and anything that's a scraggler, I'll just rewrap so it'll start to grow like it's supposed to. But typically what I've noticed is once they go over the top of the trellis and they come down, they are about to start making green beans. So I imagine if we walked around, we're already seeing flowers. So we should start to see green beans within days. Nothing harvestable, but we'll start seeing them. And with the addition of these honeybees back here, we have, in one day, we've already seen them come out and start feeding on our flowers, which we expected. But it was just good to know that, like, hey, we're gonna get extra pollination now. So they are busy bees right now. So we're looking at that and just kind of walking around. I'm seeing them in more flowers than before. Usually we get those big bumblebees, but now you can tell the honeybees because they're smaller and they're shinier. So we're seeing them in and out of the flowers, and they can really get into the squash flowers and out easier. So in theory, it's kind of doing its job. So this squash bed is doing good. This is the cucumber portion on the back side of the trellis. And I'm just kind of been doing the same thing. I've been training this one for a couple days now, and just trying to get it up there and kind of wedge it. Sometimes what I'll do too is take the tendril, and I may even tie like a little half hitch in it or something just to hold, but that one looks like it should be okay. So we've gotten a couple cucumbers now. I'm having to come out and check every day because I don't want anything. There's a bad pollination one, so we'll get that later. I don't want anything to kind of get missed and then cause the plant to stop producing. Now, as far as the squash go, we've been doing really good on the squash. This front row of Desi squash, it's got this coloration here, which I thought was part of the leaves, but it's getting kind of crispy. So I don't know, it may be some kind of disease or nutrition, but it's happening across the board on only the Desi squash. So I think what we'll do is we'll feed them, and then anything that's real crispy like this, I'll go ahead and trim out. But we've definitely been getting some squash off here, been eating a lot of them. I just harvested the other day. Our zucchini plant here, we've been getting zucchinis off of that. So, and we've just been treating it. So we're still letting this bed rest for the Brussels sprouts. We're gonna come in and we've got a little bit of weeding to do, but nothing big. So we're gonna stay on top of that. Our second tomato bed, so this is all Roma tomatoes here. And then we have one cherry tomato, and then the rest are geranium kisses. So they're all doing well. This one right here, I'm not totally convinced it's gonna do well. Looks like we do have a little bit of new growth, so hopefully this will be the growth and this will just be the random limb that doesn't make it. And honestly, that's to be expected. I mean, it's growing out from being rooted, so we're not really overly concerned about it. Back here, we've got our sweet potato bed, so everything's growing on that. There's really nothing to talk about. We're not trimming anything. We've mulched it, just watering it, taking care of it. And I think in a couple weeks, I'll come out and put one more application of fertilizer down. I may have double dosed it, I couldn't remember, so I'm just gonna kind of let it grow out and see what happens. But otherwise, I'm not really worried about it, because worst case scenario, we'll just inject it on the schedule with the rest of the garden. It should be fine. Our black-eyed peas are growing up now, if you can kind of see them in the jungle. So actually in about a day or two, we should probably start coming out and just kind of getting them started, tucking them. You know, I don't really want to mess with them yet because there's not a whole lot of growth, but we can start tucking them in around the trellis and get them to start climbing all the way up. Now these winter pumpkins are stunted. Stunted. They just aren't doing anything. I've fertilized them, I've watered them, I've done everything, and they are just chilling. So I may actually try and get one more seeding in, or I might move to something different. But the problem is I'm kind of hell-bent on growing winter pumpkins this year, so I'm probably gonna end up seeding them again. The Honest Abe tomatoes are growing slowly. These are our indeterminate tomatoes, so they are growing slowly. We do have some on here, and ooh, one of them's turning red. So it's turning red. We've got a couple on there, but these are just creepers, man. Just slow. I don't mean creepers in a bad way, but, well, I guess it is bad, but not a gross way. So we're just kind of letting them do their thing. This is our Cajun Jewel okra. You can see they're only about a foot tall. And I don't think they're gonna get much taller than this. And we're actually starting to get flowers, so that's good. The last time I grew okra, it was way up there, like 8 feet up in the air. And so we wanted something that was a little bit lower, a little bit manageable, more manageable, easier to harvest. And so we're kind of working on that. Looks like we have our first eggplants starting, if you can see on that bud right there. So we've got 1, 2, 3. So they'll be coming up soon. And eggplants love the heat. So the warmer it gets, the more productive they get. And so we're looking forward to that. And that's something that we can generally count. I don't think last year I had a very good eggplant year, but I also didn't really care too much. So this year it looks like it's gonna be a little bit better, which is fine. A lot of times I'm okay with growing vegetables every other year. You know, sometimes like I ate enough not Brussels sprouts, butternut squash last year where I'm not growing it this year because I ate enough of it. And so next year I'll grow more. So we'll do stuff like that a lot. My son's bed, we obviously have our lima beans growing, which you can see, but I want to talk about these carrots for a second. These are germinated. All down the line, they're starting to germinate pretty good. I mean, we obviously have a little bit of weeds we have to take care of, but you can see that they're germinating. And so I started these carrots, seeded them, I think 7 days ago. Now, in the past, I seed them in the fall or in the spring. It'll take like 20 days for them to germinate. We got 7 days, and I actually saw my first one within 3 days. And then we did our cabbage and some of our broccolis, and they germinated in 1 day. 1 day they germinated. And so what I came to figure out was this warm weather, like when they talk about soil temperature, you know, we've joked a lot on the Backyard Gardens podcast about how difficult it is to judge soil temperature. And I mean, you can get a soil thermometer and use it, but for me, like, I'm not really into that. But this warm weather, like, I know that right now, because it's so warm outside, the soil is a lot warmer than normal and things have germinated a lot faster. And so I also noticed last year, I seeded my carrots a little bit early, and they popped right up. The problem was there wasn't a lot of sun at the time where I planted them, so they kind of just took their time after that, but they germinated quick. And so that's what we're looking at here, so which is good because we don't have to stay on top of it and water it every day. We can come out. So I think taking advantage of this heat as far as like germination times can really work out in our favor. And that may be why that winter pumpkin's not doing so well, because it tried to germinate when it was cooler out and it could have like set the whole plant back. So that's why I think we're gonna reseed again and see what happens. So this bed has got a couple peppers in the front. These are all lipstick peppers, and you can see each one has about 3 peppers on it. So yeah, I don't know what I wanna do. Like this one right here is corking, but it's not turning yet. So I think what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna start pulling them early this year and just letting them ripen in the house or outside even. I mean, because if you get them at the grocery store, they do the same thing, right? But what this will do is if I pull it now, then I can start getting more production off of these plants and hopefully push to get more peppers off of each plant versus just having peppers sit there and waiting for them to turn colors. I mean, they can turn colors here, they can turn colors in the house or out on the porch or something like that. It just doesn't make sense. Unless I want to save the seed, then I need to let it turn colors and ripen completely on the plant. So that's something that we're going to look into as well. But if we come around the back, and I know I keep showing you these tomatoes from the back, but it's the easiest way to look at them. These are our Determinant Roma tomatoes. And you can see we're going to have a red tomato probably tomorrow. And these guys are pretty loaded down all the way up. And so we'll start getting our initial flush of tomatoes off of these now. Same things with the peppers. As soon as we start harvesting them, they're gonna start putting out a couple more buds because it comes in like, we'll get probably 2.5 flushes off of this plant. So once we start pulling them, they'll start to flush again. I mean, we've got some more buds up here. So as they go and they clean up from the bottom up, we'll start getting more and more, which is good. That's what we want. So this is my Fat Joe corn. I say Fat Joe because you can see it's all leaning. It's doing the lean back. I believe it's just because of the amount of sun here that this is getting. So you can see we do have 2 ears that are tasseling. These are the first ones that germinated. We had to do multiple sowings. So I did hand pollinate these last night. And all I did was take them and bang them together. But hopefully the rest of these will all they look like they're all kind of coming at the same time. We've got another one that tasseled overnight. So, you know, each day we'll start to see more and more. This one's growing. So all of this should go. And then actually, believe it or not, the bees should help with that too, because I was told that once the bees start pollinating on the corn, you can get multiples of corn and bigger ears of corn. So we're going to use that to our advantage. Our containers are doing well too. My cards run low and I don't want to get cut off on you guys. I do want to show you this container here, kind of a bummer moment. We had some high winds the other day and this tomato toppled over. So I'm going to come out here and fix it, but I'll show you what's going on. It's a geranium kiss tomato and you can see that it fell over. And so I'm going to try and bend it up slowly, tie it to the stake. And the problem is I put the stake in and forgot to tie it, which is definitely a thing around here. So instead of like forcing it to come up, what I'll do is if it's laying down like this, I'll tie it here, give it a couple days, tighten it here, you know, and over a period of time until it straightens back up. and then we can kind of have, you know, hopefully everything goes. If the stalk splits, what I'll do is I'll get some kind of like grafting tape or something and wrap it to keep the moisture in, and it'll do just fine. So that's something that you can do. I've done it before and it works great. And I've done it for other things in my yard. So all in all, everything's going really good in the garden. We're harvesting squash daily. The tomatoes are coming soon. And the husk tomatoes are any day now. We're going to start getting those. So everything's going right along. And the peppers, I'm probably going to start harvesting within the next couple days. And we'll just follow that progress, because I really want to see if you get more peppers when you pull the green ones off and let them ripen. I know that, like, I looked it up on the Backyard Gardens podcast the other day, and a bell pepper plant generally produces between 4 and 8 peppers per year. So I'm kind of thinking, if I can kind of trick the pepper into thinking it needs to keep producing, can we actually get more peppers off of our plant?
Goodbye.